All right, it is time. Hey everyone, we're back for a new season. I'm John Selway. Welcome to Techno Saturdays. Nice to see a few of our regulars here in the chat. John H. Kingston III was here 30 minutes or so early. You're usually one of the first. Hey, William Mind Readers, Serotonin Records, BPMF. My good friend Jason is here. Simple Sam, welcome back. Enigmatic Onion. Pavel K2, hello. Who else is here? Craig Steiber? Hopefully I got your name right. Anyway, we're back with roughly the same schedule. We're going, fewer days a week now, but I'm keeping my Saturdays. I like this time of day, and I have a bunch of guests lined up, so we couldn't change my day anyway. So, you know who we are by now. If you're new, though, 343 Labs is a music production school, and we've been doing this 343 TV almost daily. Now we're kind of slowing it down a little bit, but still several times a week since, pandemic times started up as a way for us to reach out and share what we do and grow our community and just make music and have fun. And that's what I'm doing. I used to do Tuesdays and Techno Tuesdays, and now it's Selway Techno Saturdays, and sometimes it's Electro Saturdays. I've been having a lot of fun bringing in some interesting electro artists as well as techno, and it's all the same for me anyway. It's cool, electronic, underground, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's just me doing kind of music production tutorials focusing on a subject. More and more, though, I've been having a lot of fun bringing in guests, either just to talk and hang out and listen to music, but also, as I'm trying to do more, have artists come in and show their work, show their process, talk about how things go for them, whether it's hardware or software or whatever it is. So that's a little bit what's happening today. We've got our guest today, Heidi Sabertooth, and we'll bring her in a minute. But before we do that, I should mention that we usually do some kind of a giveaway, and this week is no exception. We run these pro sessions, these workshops on a regular basis, and we're giving away a pro session to this week for our giveaway. So there should be a link here in the chat from 343 Labs. If you haven't joined yet, please do that. Of course, subscribe if you haven't already. We recently got over 10,000. I think we're doing pretty good there, but we'd like to keep it going. So also notifications help. Hit the bell. And if you want to find out any more information about 343 Labs and what the school has to offer in terms of music production, synthesis, and sound design, we also have a Discord server that's we're still growing, and you can come hang out, get feedback for your work. We do sample challenges and beat battles, so definitely check that out. All that information, the links to 343 and our Discord are below in the description. So without further ado, let's say hello to Heidi Sabertooth. How's it going?
Hi. It's going pretty good. Saturday.
Yeah, this is a nice way for me to socialize and get together with people lately, actually. That's kind of what it's become. I mean, it's music production and techno and everything, but also we just get to hang out and talk. So really glad to have you. Thanks for doing it.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I mean, isolation has been the big word for the last year, so it is great to be able to see people in this in the virtual landscape.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I never thought. I mean, I knew there were streamers, I knew there were people going on and doing live stuff, especially with gaming, like on Twitch and everything. And I heard, okay, musicians are starting to do it. And just over the last year, obviously, it's really exploded. All of the DJs live streaming and, or musicians performing live. It's really amazing. This is such a great outlet for everybody. And then for me, who I haven't been gigging in years, I've been, sticking at home and making music and teaching and producing with other people. But so I didn't really lose out because the touring stopped. I'd already found another way to go ahead. So in that way I was fortunate, but it's really important, I think, for a lot of people to have stuff like this to do now, to keep their careers moving forward and to look for new ways to do things.
Yeah, I mean, if we would have suggested this like a year and a half ago or something, I would have been like, oh my God, a live stream and then a gear thing. Now we're just used to live streams. I know how to record one, and
Right.
it's pretty par for the course. So this is
Interesting that you
exciting.
said you know how to record one. It's a lot of the live streams are not exactly fully live, are they? It's kind of an open secret. It's so hard to do this in real time. Actually, this
Yeah.
week just doing the technical setup to get everything working and solid. There's always a lot of technical hoops to jump through, right?
I have done several very live streams.
Oh,
The
great.
most usually the most live streams I've done actually are at Good Room because Good Room has the setup. That's always live.
Right.
But I've done two live streams at home, and yeah, it required like a sound check and you know figuring out like basically everyone else turn your Wi-Fi off. On the
All of that.
block. I don't know.
It's funny,
More
Wi-Fi. I mean,
coordination.
I mentioned this when we were doing the setup. Like, your Wi-Fi is doing great. Wi-Fi is like the number one reason why streams drop out. Actually, I
Yeah.
found like if everybody was getting Ethernet cables hooked up to routers, things would be much more steady for sure. And I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of the bigger setups they're doing that.
Yeah, definitely. Those two events were like more the massive, they had some budget behind them and
Right.
stuff. So they like went through a lot of logistics with me. So, but
Cool.
yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, I'm very proud of how everyone has figured out how to navigate this crazy landscape. I mean, it has not been easy, but there have been also some amazing opportunities that have come out of it. So
Sure.
I don't know, personal growth maybe, for people like you have a little more time at home and you're like, why don't I do this or why don't I learn that? So
Well, yeah, my whole journey becoming a guy who's a live streamer, although it's not full on, it's only an hour a week. Some people do this hours every day. Um, Still, what a learning process. And I really did, I didn't think I wanted to do this when we first started. I was like anxious and oh, I'm not a live streamer. I don't want to go out and do that. But then now I look forward to it actually. So yeah, this is the personal growth for sure.
well, I
Yeah.
realized, oh, I was going to just on a tangent there, but I kind of realized maybe a few months ago, I was like, wow, this is the longest stretch that I would have ever gone in my life since maybe I've been 7 years old or something without playing live.
Gosh, you've been performing in front of people since you were 7.
Yeah, like
What were
on
you doing?
instruments and stuff.
What were you? Yeah, interesting. Let's talk a little bit about your musical background. That's great. Where did you get started?
Well, I started actually with violin,
I
and I played
didn't know that about
violin.
you. I played
I
the violin
played
from age 4 through high school until
Yes,
college. Yeah.
cool. Well, I started at 5. I think I wanted to start at 4, but I think my parents were like, let's just wait until you have some, I don't know, fingers that work. I don't know. But I'm impressed with your 4 years old. That's pretty awesome.
Apparently, I wanted to.
Yes.
It's funny what little kids do. Like I'm, it's purely by, I mean, not completely by chance. Both my parents are musicians and music teachers, so I was already surrounded by music from birth.
Yep.
But I apparently pointed at a violin and said, "I want that,"
Well,
and
that's my story
I asked
too.
for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, that was my story too. Very similar, only just 1 year later.
Mm.
And yeah, I played violin actually through 8th grade, I think. And then I kind of stopped and focused more. I started playing trumpet in 5th grade.
Nice.
So my story is very similar because both of my parents are music educators too. So I had a lot of music growing up. But yeah, it was a little bit hard to learn from them though. That was the challenge because I really already like wanted to just make my own stuff, you know?
Okay.
you know?
I
I
know that
mean, but
feeling.
yeah, but I'm super, super, super grateful for formal instrument instruction
Hmm.
and for music training when I was growing up because I think it set such a good foundation. And just, it's a little bit of discipline and a little bit of, uh, s- you know, sometimes things are not always fun, in the moment.
True.
Right? But like figuring out
practicing over and over.
And it's translated to figuring out electronic gear for me too. Like, what's the routing on this, or how do I figure out this manual? You have to kind of slog through some rougher moments, and then you reap the rewards.
I thought of a question coming from a classical background. Do you feel like you had to forget as much as you learned in a way to dive deeper into the kind of stuff you do now?
I was trying to forget classical music since I was learning it. Oddly, I mean, I was always just really not so interested in, like, I don't know,
traditional melody and harmony.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I was like more interested in the weird sounds,
Okay.
But even it's funny. Like, I still incorporate a lot of like arpeggios and chords and stuff. But
speaking of what you incorporate, I'm just going to put a little music on in the background while we talk, and then we can talk a little bit about things specifically as it comes through. It's just nice to have a little background music sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
I like the beginning of this one. You said arpeggio, and I thought of this one.
Well, this is an ode to my father.
Whoa, that's deep. Nice.
Yeah. This was released on Lost Soul Enterprises. This is one of my first like EP releases.
Lost Soul Enterprises?
Yeah.
Whose label is that?
That is our Gamble started.
Okay.
The label.
I should know that. I should know that's okay.
And
I have a terrible memory. There's too many labels to remember.
Yeah, so Lost Soul Enterprises is my home label. It's I'm a resident, and we throw parties and we do a lot of fun things. But it's also a label. I think a lot of people just go to the Lost Soul Enterprises parties and they don't realize, hey, it's also a label.
Makes sense.
So this track I recorded in a jam, and I had this whole intro part, and I asked Richard, I was like, I have this whole intro part which is very like Beethoven, but I'd like to keep it in for my dad.
I think that intro is the coolest. I love that you start. I wish it happened again in the track. Like if I was playing this in a DJ set, I'd probably play it again just to get that in there. Like I would just cut back to the beginning.
Why don't you play it again right
Sure,
now?
I'm going to turn it up. And let's focus on this. I just love this sound. And the fact that it's not in tune and then it becomes in tune, What's sequencing this?
The SQ1.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's a chord, right?
Chord. Yeah, I have it right here. Chord.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically I use the SQ1 with the SH101, so it's got, I'm not sure if I'm using the wrong voltage on it.
Is it a little wacky?
Yeah, basically changing voltage, and I'm using like not the proper chromatic scales.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's how I usually try to record a lot of my sequencing. I just don't. I want to get away from all. It's kind of like
making an alternative scale, just because. Yeah. And if I'm no expert on modular, you're not using modular here. You're using but you're still using a control voltage. You're using an analog signal. Yeah. And depending on the voltage, you may get different tuning ranges, right?
Exactly.
So you're using the wrong voltage on purpose to get an interesting scale, which is great. Someone in the chat once, what were we talking about? I don't remember. So I don't even remember if it was my stream or not. We were talking about alternative tunings and scales, and there's the Scala. You heard of Scala? Mm-hmm. And it's like a whole system for having alternative tunings, and not every DAW or synth is compatible with them, but there are some. And Alexi Parala, that producer who has this whole Kalundi scale, which is very mysterious, and I think I don't quite fully understand it. I think there's multiple scales that he uses, but I was thinking about doing a show one of these days on making techno with alternative tunings or non-chromatic scales. Yeah. So could be cool.
Well, if anyone wants to know and they have the SQ1, basically I use the linear function most of the time. That's the one, and then some odd voltage, like one of the voltage settings.
Right.
And that's how I get some of those like squawks as well. I put the portamento on.
Right. Well, that's always the thing. Are you using an SH-101, like the original analog?
Oh, yeah.
I never owned one. I've made many tracks with them because I had them around, like I borrowed it or someone I was in a studio with one. I only have an SH-01, the boutique version, but it really is. That's a desert island synth for me. Like I absolutely that one, and the Pro One is close. I like the Pro One as well. I sold mine unfortunately, but similar vibe, but a little growlier, you know.
Yeah, the 101 I got from Max Ravitz, Patricia. You know, the producer, Patricia.
I'm afraid that's new to me.
Okay. Well, Patricia
another reason I like to do this because I learn a lot when I do these things.
Patricia actually is pretty famous. Came out on Lies back when Lies was like big. I mean, Lies is still big. Sorry, Ron.
Sure.
Your label is awesome.
Long Island Electrical Systems.
Yeah.
If anyone, that's a great label. Just for everybody who's new out there.
Sick label, and Ron Morelli does a great job with that. So, but I'm saying when it was kind of like coming out of New York, and there was a big scene. I would say 2013 to 2015. Patricia, the producer, was like a big part of that, and so they have releases on Spectrum School, and actually now they're working at the Moog plant in Asheville.
Nice.
So they
That's great.
Yeah, they kind of transferred their career a little bit more to building synth and helping on that side. But maybe they have a release coming up. I'm not sure. I think they released under a pseudonym on the Bunker label recently called like Pizza Man or
Pizza
something.
Man.
Yeah, it's something like those. It's like the record looks like a pizza. I mean, for New Yorkers, that's just, damn, that's commitment.
I don't know if you can see in the background. I just tried looking up Bunker NYC Pizza Man, and of course, like pictures of pizzas.
You're making me hungry. I haven't eaten yet. Let's
it is, sorry. No mention of food. Let's keep that on the side.
Well, anyway, I got my SH-101s from Max Ravitz right before he was switching over to modular.
Okay.
And he was getting rid of some of his traditional stuff. So I got it for a real good price a long time ago, back in the day. So I've been using it for a long time.
Great.
And I love it.
Yeah, I think I always want to have an SH-101 or a clone or even a plug-in version. I think someone mentioned the Lush 101 is a plug-in. I think that's D16. Does that sound right? It's more than an emulation of a 101. It's even more powerful, but it sounds really good.
Yeah.
Let's check in with the chat a little bit. There's a lot of action going on here. Riley, welcome. Looking forward to this. Jamming out with hardware has been my main thing lately. Well, that's what we're doing today. After we get done with our talk, Heidi's going to show us a little bit of what her workflow is, going from hardware into Ableton Live. So that should be a lot of fun. Let's see who else is in here. Live Society says that was a short season break. Yeah, we were really only off for a week. It was barely a break. There was no sigh of relief. It was really just still working to get the next show going. So yeah, it was just a little break, but sometimes it's nice to, even when it's short, to have a little refresh and a restart. Riley says, I'm just starting out with the Electribe, Prophet, and DX7.
Oh.
DX7 is a tough one to get started out with, I would think, as far as programming sounds.
What Electribe is Riley using? Maybe Riley can comment in the chat. But I'm using an Electribe ESX1.
Nice. That's one of the, is that an older one actually?
Oh yeah, this is the old one. Yeah.
Cool. Is it the red one? I think I see.
Yeah.
So it's a sampler.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a sampler.
I tried. I've never had a full-on relationship with groove boxes. Anything that required like multiple button presses to get to a feature, I was kind of. I really like, even if it has to be bigger, I'd rather have more knobs and buttons on the surface. So I never practiced. I never practiced enough with that chord to like really get to know it. But I know they can sound really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Korg, the Electribe, well, again, it's like, I feel like I've just, my instruments are sort of like my babies. I grow with them, and, I kind of hold on to them, and I keep learning from them. So the Electribe has been with me for quite a few years, and I like the real-time kind of controls. You can do a lot of modulation. You can program modulation. And I'll actually demonstrate that on my hi-hat has a fully programmed modulation.
Nice.
That I don't have to. So like I'll design patterns that have a lot of movement. So I don't have to be so hands-on on them, and that could be recorded as I have my hands on other things.
No, that's a really good idea, and that's kind of working if you're just in only like say in a live software only, Ableton session. That's how I might have clips with envelopes in them, and I'll have like stuff modulating over long periods of time. The melody and the rhythm or whatever will only be a bar or 2 bars, maybe a little longer, but using the clip envelopes, you can unlink them to have longer lengths than the clip is. And you could do a whole track almost with one clip going up and down with the envelope automation. You can record all that in too with the controller, and then just have that be more than a bar. And while you're performing, it can be going all over the place, right? While you do something else. It's kind of like remote control.
Yeah. And I think there's, honestly, these groove boxes are like small computers inside of them, depending upon how intense they are. So a lot of that functionality was around back then and was put into these but just using the knob. So of course you can't get quite as detailed as Ableton, but what's nice is that you can take this, I don't know, it's a separate instrument. You could take it out. If you do the automations, it's again, more hands-free. You can do more actual automation on the things that you want people, like in a live performance context, I want people to see that I'm like playing the synth,
right.
I think that's exciting for people to see that.
Totally. I agree. And you need to know that something is happening in the moment. And if you can't tell, I mean, you might as well be DJing, right? And so you got to play an instrument when you're performing live.
I remember a long time ago, I don't remember who the performer was, but I was really into their music, and it was like not a techno person. It was like, I don't remember. I don't want to name names, but it's kind of, whatever. And it was a packed show. Everybody wanted to be there, Williamsburg. And it was just this guy, like, basically he just pressed play and like he just was drinking his beer. And I was like, wow. And I looked around, like, I was like, is everybody okay with just this idea that the performer is just there? And they're like, I guess, whatever. I like to bring the machines out, have an experience, have some randomness that happens. It's
randomness, unexpected, happy accidents. Sometimes things happen in the moment that just are amazing. And you gotta put yourself out there and not be afraid to fail for those things to happen.
Yeah.
All right, I'm throwing in another one of your tracks here.
Oh, yeah.
Weeding Through Distortion.
Yeah.
Tell me about this one. I like the beat already.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the beat is from the Electribe. And you can get a lot of cool crunch on it just in the box there.
It's got a tube, right?
Yeah, it's got a tube. I mean, I think that's why some people love or hate it. Some people really hate the tube. But I think it gives an interesting warmth to it and a crunchy dirtiness. I don't know. But it also has, like, this is almost like, it has like 3 onboard effects, and you can like link them together. So I think this might be like the distortion and the bit crusher together. But that stuff is
the trippy stuff on the top, the squiggly pitch bend.
Yeah, that's definitely my SH101.
Absolutely. Sounds like maybe is it the filter resonating?
Yeah. I'm trying to think what exactly how to do that. Yeah.
Jason just made a comment. Aphex Twin brought the machines out and then played a DAT. We never forgave him. I think he's talking about a show in the 90s when he played at the Limelight, if I remember correctly.
You're saying that Apex actually brought the machines out and it was bad?
I don't think it. I mean, the music was probably amazing, and that's another thing. Like, some of it is what you can get away with. It's possible. I'm not saying I totally approve of it 100%, but it is possible to entertain a crowd without doing everything live. Like, you can sneak a little in the background. I mean, I'll be honest. I've done a lot of live performance over the years, and sometimes it was fully 100% live to the point of improvising from nothing, like building the patterns up from zero in front of people, and that's really scary with nothing prepared ahead of time.
Well, that's improv.
But but then you do it with a result in mind. Yeah, it's kind of improvisational arrangement, which is sort of what the title of the show today is. A friend of mine, he's another producer who doesn't make techno. He's been studying music theory, and he texted me earlier today saying, "What's improvisational arrangement?" So we'll have to figure that out today. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I've also done shows with like backing tracks with a little bit of live on top. And I may have pretended once to actually play when I wasn't. But it was really due to technical issues. Like, it was going to sound really crappy if I didn't. So it was just the circumstances. But anyway.
I hear you. Well, you know, I don't think I've ever faked, like, pantomime played. But I have had some shows where things did kind of not go exactly right.
Right.
And I had to, like, sort of improvise and play something through there and be like, why is this machine not on? Or what's happening? It's not something's not synced. I don't know. It's exciting. It's exciting. And I kind of miss, I feel like there was a little bit more space for that in the, like, live band days.
Yeah.
Like, I've been playing in bands. I've been in New York for kind of a long time. Kind of scary. And yeah, I think back in the late, 2008 time, 2006, 2008, there was a lot of bands, and there was just a lot more, live. Like,
right.
People knew that this was live,
Sure.
and they didn't expect perfection. I mean, it was like a bass guitar and someone singing or something. So I think, in that middle of the ground time, when 2010 to 2014, I think you saw such a amount of, like, people who were formerly playing in bands like myself,
Okay.
that got their hands on their own gear, and like, samplers became much more prevalent. All this gear became much easier to get, and we all started making our own projects.
Cool.
We realized, damn, we don't actually need to be in a band. We can actually just make our own thing, and it's a lot less like annoying rehearsal with someone that you're a little bit upset with, or
Yeah, you're more self-reliant. I mean, if you don't want to deal with people, you don't have to. That said, I still love collaborating. I would prefer, actually, to perform live with someone else, not than have it all be on me. It's just, I like collaborating in the studio, and I like collaborating in terms of performance. So I kind of, even if you have to deal with other personalities, I like bands. I played in bands when I was younger. I love it. I miss it.
I'm
actually.
not disparaging bands, and I also have several collaborative projects, and I do love them too. But I think, for a lot of people who would just kind of come in and thought like a band was like the only way that you could sort of perform your music, suddenly you were really able to really play your own solo shows.
Sure.
Anyone could, And I think there was a lot more room for experimentation and, forgiveness of complications. I think personally, from my vantage point, since live sets are interspersed with DJ sets, that's when I think the level of perfection started to become, like, the expectation became a little higher. Like,
Sure.
You couldn't just come in and play a live set in between two DJs and not have a real quality sound, just sound weird.
That's true. There's kind of like that hour-long, like, big sound system or festival performance that has to be like peak effort, and the sound quality has to, it needs to sound like a finished track. That's actually the last time I did perform live, or pseudo live, even more like a hybrid live DJ set, was with Christian Smith doing like the 909 festival in Amsterdam a couple years ago now. And I designed the whole Ableton Live part of it. It was Ableton Live plus hardware, synced to one of those Pioneer DJ samplers. Have you seen those?
Mm-hmm.
The DJS 1000?
Yep.
And Christian was using that, which is a perfect instrument for him who's more practiced as a DJ, to throw in loops and sample one-shot samples and things in real time. And then having that synced with Ableton Live, and then having the SH01 and a TB03 and a Moog Siren being controlled from MIDI from Live, and then full on all of our tracks stemmed out so we could adjust the mix in real time to play on the sound system. And so we kind of had to decide, like, all right, for this one, we're going to use these stems from the original, and then we'll replace them with the hardware that we're tweaking in real time. And it was kind of like a hybrid of, like, we could have just played back stems and pretended, but I would have not felt good about that.
Yeah.
I had to, like, throw in some synths to play,
right.
or else it just wouldn't have been right. So, but I was trying to find that balance between, like, polished DJ set sound and live real time kind of.
So what I did in that evolution was that I added the Octatrack.
Nice. Well, that's that's like a DAW almost.
Yeah. So the Octatrack for me functions to, like, still I feel like when I go out, my interplay is mostly between my primary beat machine, which is the ESX, right? And the SH101, and maybe another synth that I bring out. Sometimes I've actually brought out the little vocal keys because, hey, what the hell? It's cute and it's small and it's actually...
They sound good.
Fine.
All those little boxes sound great.
Yeah. And then also my DX, which is up here. So I have synth lines coming out there. Today I'll actually show the kick. I'll be just actually using it for a kick and a bass.
You've got the DX is the DX. It's the 200. Module, right? The 200. I would love to have one of those. FM. If I had to pick one type of synthesis, that's my favorite. Yeah. Actually, I really love FM. I'm going to pause here just for a minute. We're about halfway through. We're going to start getting into your presentation, and let's take a look at the chat real quick. Let's see. Micah B. Davis has kind of a somewhat unrelated question, but I want to address it because it is relevant to what we do for 343 Labs. So Micah asks, do you know of any Ableton instruments or packs that sound like Daft Punk's Random Access Memories? Now, let's think about that for a second. What kind of synths do those sound like? I'm going to ask you, Heidi, what would you guess? Like, what type of synthesis or sound instruments make sounds like those?
I'm just trying to think what Daft Punk sounds like right now. I'm having a blank.
I'll just say it then. It's kind of like Juno? Vintage, retro, warm, lush, thick, kind of 80s, 70s. Right. Yeah. So I like that question because it relates to some of what I do for 343 Labs. I do a synthesis and sound design for producers course. It's not specific to Ableton Live, but we learn about, subtractive synthesis, wavetable synthesis, FM synthesis, other kinds of synthesis, using samples as synthesizers, and then using them musically. So I try to ride the line between all the technical stuff you have to know about oscillators and envelopes and LFOs and routing and etc., and just being creative with synthesizers and making sounds that you like for your music. And that's a great thing that we could explore in that course, is like you could come in with a certain sort of style or genre in mind, something that you want to do, and we could explore what type of synthesizer. So I would say, just to answer your question, look to kind of vintage style, subtractive, virtual analog synths if you're working in software. Specifically in Live, they have a synth called Analog, which, with the right programming and effects can sound very similar to these sort of more famous vintage Roland sequential circuits, Oberheim kind of sounds that are being used on records like you asked about. Let's see. That was a pretty good segue, huh? Like, I'm so not slick. I just have to give away everything's on my heart's on my sleeve. I'm an open book. I talk about how I feel. That's
good.
And thanks to everyone for tuning in again this week at the beginning of this new season. And as was mentioned earlier, we had a very short break, but we like to do this and we want to keep the momentum going. So if you haven't already, please subscribe, give us a reaction, whatever that may be. Check out our information down below in the description. You can go to 343labs.com or 343labs.de because we do have a location in Berlin at Riverside Studios. So if you're in Germany, in Berlin, and you want to get into what we are doing and you're thinking about taking a music production course, definitely check us out and visit our Discord, see what we've got going on in there. And I don't know, let's get down to business. You are going to tell us what you're going to do for us.
Well, in a short amount of time, because we didn't even talk about Synth Library, which we got to talk
Let's
about.
Do
synth.
that. Let's do that first. Yeah, that's really important. You have the floor. I'm really into this.
Yeah. So, maybe if I didn't have all these other things going, I would have done a little like a whole new song for everybody or a little bit different demo. But we're gonna still have a cool experience. But I've been very busy helping to launch a new project called Synth Library NYC, which it's right there in the name, as you can imagine. We are going to be a lending library of synthesizers and other electronic musical instrument. There's our website right there, Synth Library NYC. We've been in consultation with Synth Lab, which is out in Los Angeles. They actually helped to launch a similar project, a lending library of electronic musical instruments out there. And so we're launching a model out here in New York for our community. We are prioritizing people who need additional support. We're prioritizing people who have not been, somewhat marginalized in the music industry historically. So people who are marginalized genders, and also people who identify as BIPOC. So we'll have priority booking windows for those folks. So they'll get like 2 days ahead of access.
Nice.
Yes, and we're trying to make sure the membership as well is diverse and really includes, but it's open to everybody. We had our first application membership drive like 2 weeks ago, I think. We was open for a week and we got over 350 applications. So
that's great.
Yeah,
right off the bat,
excitement is there. I will say we have 35 instruments right now.
You're going to need a few more for 350 people.
Yes. So we're doing a lot of fundraising, and we are actually going to do a soft launch in May with 100 charter members.
Okay.
And we're actually hoping to get a few more pieces of gear before that, because we want to get like maybe to 50. So we're actually modeled the LA program. They don't have one piece of gear per person, because what they found out is that not everybody needs to loan out a piece of gear all the time.
Right.
I think, but anyway.
You need kind of a minimum to cover how many requests you get at any given moment.
Redo.
So hopefully you're getting some interested manufacturers involved.
We have donations from Moog so far. We have Novation and Focusrite that have come on board.
Great.
Critter and Guitari, Landscape FM, Make Noise. So definitely, and just heard back from Darren at Control, our local synth spot here in Brooklyn. He's going to donate some stuff. And
I haven't even been to Control yet.
Oh, really?
After all this time. It's kind of like if I go in there, I'm going to want something, kind of. Like I'm avoiding it a little bit, even though I want to go.
Yeah, I know, understand. So anyway, if you're interested in supporting Synth Library, follow us on Instagram. We have a pretty big fundraiser coming up on Tuesday. Here's my shameless plug. I actually don't know the exact timing on this. So if you're interested, you should follow Instagram, and we'll have more things on alerting you. But that's going to be part of this new Seth Troxler Dream Access TV thing.
I heard about that.
On Twitch.
It's kind of like, old public access style streaming platform, I think, right?
So yes, exactly. And I will be playing live. I mean, it's a pre-recorded, but you'll see a full set of mine.
Definitely going to check that out.
We have Bergsinus that's playing. We also
she's going to be my guest next week.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And Jay Words, this dope producer out of New Jersey, and also X, who is the partner that I'm working with to get this up and running, Synth Library.
Nice.
And then Gorba, who is out of Los Angeles, and she is one of the founders of their program out there. So
great.
It's going to be a great lineup of really live hardware synth stuff mostly.
This is perfect. Speaking of live hardware synth stuff.
Okay, let's play.
Let's get into it before we run out of time.
Oh, we were not going to run out of time. It's fine. I was saying to John before, I'm like, I have this really short cable, unfortunately, on my
Oh, I see. You need an extension.
So I don't have an extension at home, and I forgot about that. So hopefully I will not, hang myself
sure.
on.
You're going to be good.
I think it'll be fine. So maybe I'll try to I think you guys can see the gear here.
Yeah, I can see your Korg. I can see your Octatrack. Full screen. Awesome.
Is that better? Okay.
That's great.
Cool. So yeah, so I guess what I'm playing is sort of the opening of a recent live set, actually the live set that I recorded recently.
Okay.
And I just thought I actually haven't made this into a produced track yet.
All right. Well, but that's what this is about. It's like you start in hardware. You don't write in Ableton Live. You're using Ableton Live to track. You're not using its full functionality.
Exactly.
But that's one great thing about Ableton Live is it's a Swiss Army knife. It can be whatever you need it to be, whether you're performing live or completely working in the box or tracking your hardware or some combination of all of those things, which is kind of where you are.
Exactly. So what I do is I have my ESX one, which is the beat machine. I have my Octatrack, which is the brain for all my MIDI patterns. So and also samples. Some samples that I have will come through there. So the Octatrack is sending MIDI messages to my SH-101 in this example. And I guess since we talked all about the SQ1, I guess I should have probably done something with that, but I didn't.
You didn't know. It just came
I didn't remember.
But just to mention that if anyone's just getting into this, that's a very accessible, affordable, useful sequencer. So they're pretty cheap, right?
Very. I was super happy about it. And in fact, I've seen Russell Butler play, I think, and they have when I saw them play, they had two of them side by side, and I was like, damn, that's smart. Because they're very cheap, and if you have a modular, you could be using separate sequences.
Yeah. So
yeah, I haven't done that yet. Maybe I should get a second one. But I was gonna share the screen.
Show us your.
Oh no, here we go. So this is what I'm playing with. So it's
the one on top is I'm sweating that.
That's the DX 200, and then below this is just this is for modern New York living where you have to have everything vertical, and because you don't have enough room to spread out, I have this skyscraper of machines. But the SH-101 is next to down there with the keys.
Uh-huh.
Then it's the Octatrack under that, just peeking out slightly, the black one, and then the red one is the Electribe.
Got it.
And then over on this side, there we go. So this is right to the left of it. I just wanted to show my everything is marked up, but it's I used a couple of guitar pedals
great
to come out of the SH-101. So there's a digital delay, a Boss digital delay, and then also a Holy Grail reverb. And
I haven't heard the Holy Grail.
Oh yeah, I love that reverb.
Is it stereo?
Standard. No, it's mono.
I have a thing about that. I don't know if it's just my expectations from working in a DAW mostly, but mono reverb, not having the choice to be stereo, I feel I need more space.
Well, space was actually the thing, is because this is a nano. The Holy Grail is a nano, and
it's tiny.
It was really small.
No, that's true. If you're traveling with gears, it makes sense to go compact.
It's true. I mean, it's funny. Maybe that's the one thing I could upgrade on. I haven't thought about that, but the Cathedral is.
I was
really
just
fun
going to hook
well.
this up to my. This is a Ventress dual reverb. I was going to hook this up to my SH-01 because it sounds really sweet, and it's kind of pricey, but it's cheaper than a Strymon. So
right, yeah. And then the other keyboard that's on to the left of the SH-101 is an old Korg MS-2000.
Oh, right. No, those are pretty cool. That's kind of early virtual analog synth, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is actually that's my first synth I ever had. So
Awesome.
I've just always kept it because whatever. It's a little ravey. I mean, really, all I play on it are pads and stuff. Because some of the like, yeah, I know it came out I think in the like 2000 era or something. It has a lot of like very intense sounds on it. But
cool.
Okay,
let's have a listen.
Let me go back to my screen for you guys. So yeah, I have everything. Just it'll be appearing on different tracks. You can see it's marked, so you can follow along.
Excellent.
Cool. All right. Well, this is basically, yeah. Actually, I'm gonna actually. Sorry, this is okay. There we go. I'm gonna record.
Always record, I think, would be a good thing to remember.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Because you never know what you're gonna get in a certain part. Yeah, I think I'll turn that off for now.
Here comes that 101.
Okay.
Yes. That was great.
That was kind of crazy. It was hard for me to reach there a little bit, but
You did it. And it sounded great. We got some nice comments in here. A lot of people like that pad you were playing in real time. That was excellent.
Yeah. So basically, like, my whole way that I think, is that okay if I shut this a little bit, or can you see it?
Yeah. When you
better
have
to keep it open.
Yeah.
Okay. To look at it. Yeah. So basically, here, if you can see my cursor, this is the SH101.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the DX. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna have to. Hold on, let me just
I'm gonna jump in here while you're fooling around there with whatever is on the side. But there was a question from, where did he go? Sorry, I've lost the name, but there was a question about your hardware. You're using a Motu.
Yeah.
Ultralight.
Motu. No. Actually, I forget what it's called. It's an M28, I think. Does that sound right? Some number like that.
Okay.
It's a hybrid. It's a FireWire / USB interface. It's 10 inputs. 10 input output.
Okay. Yeah, I think because how you have it set up here is important. For because we're talking about going from this. You're doing your live performance basically. That's exactly how you would do it in front of a crowd.
Yeah,
and you're capturing it in real time. Everything's separate. Now this is different. Abe Duque actually did the kind of acid house thing yesterday, and his workflow was to set things up and then track one instrument at a time, and then take all that and arrange it from start to finish on the timeline. So you're doing something different here. You've got each individual instrument or some combinations of instruments, and I think that goes to one of the questions that I saw was like what your signal routing is going into the interface and like how things are separated out.
Yeah, so my signal routing is kind of just basically here. You see the SH101 is going on to channel 1. The DX, I'm actually running because I only have 10 ins, I'm running that as a mono. I mean, you maybe when I probably would go back actually after to make this a track, I would kind of use this. Maybe I would capture some good stuff in this live feel, but then maybe I would want to separate out some of the drums on the DX if I felt like it was important. So I would kind of overdub, but do it within the line of this. So
that's great. So I just want to go over that again. You're tracking everything as separately as you can with your limited number of inputs.
Yep.
And you're capturing the spontaneous arrangement that you're doing in real time. This is where the improvising part comes in. It's sort of, you've practiced this. You have an idea of what the shape of the track is, but also you're free to change and do something different and have these happy accidents happen, and the spontaneity or just the humanity of it, right? It's not just everything's perfect, and you can capture all of that in the arrangement view, tracking it. And so you have all that, but then you can go in and separately add parts or separate out parts for mixing, or let's say you had something in mono and you want it to be stereo, you could track it in stereo. And
definitely,
since everything's synced up with live, how do you find the clock, by the way, with live in your hardware?
I've had some issues with that, and there was even like a weird delay that was happening with my synth today when I was playing it. I'm like, that's weird, but I mean, basically I would not release this track like this. This is not a track to me, but this provides a good foundation for some, especially the synth lines that can be very I don't know, or just the general way that I want it to be presented. Then I have a sketch outline, right? So what I would go do now is I would be like, oh, okay, let's see, how long is this? Wow. This is too long for a track for me. And then I would go back and say, I want this to be about 6 minutes, maybe. So I would maybe look through and listen through and first start kind of editing as it is. Maybe.
That's what you usually sort of edit for length first before you do anything else? Or it depends on how you feel.
Yes, because usually when I'm doing this, I make something 15 minutes because I'm like experimenting with some things that I'm just writing. This particular one, maybe because I was too nervous, I was like, well, let's just try something that I've already played for a live set. And, but a lot of times the biggest thing that I'm doing is my process is that I'm really writing different parts in my machines first.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, a lot of times I will write things in the machines that are not specifically designed to go together. Like when I come into the studio, I have these like little calisthenic exercises that I do.
Oh, nice.
And okay, I'm just going to reveal this because it's kind of funny and maybe someone will find this funny. But like I had to make silly names to get like motivated about it. Like I've got, my little beat boot camp that I do.
Beat
and then I got
boot camp.
Yeah, and then I got my Octatrack hour of power. And
nice.
then, yeah, so like each machine, so I'll like write a bunch of stuff on that machine and just get excited about that machine alone.
Okay.
And then I don't worry about so much how they all go together later. Then I'll think about like basically then I can have a lot of fun. I can be like, oh, I have these cool MIDI patterns that go into a synth, but I also will try a bunch of different beats.
Sure.
Like which beat that I've already written for something else, whatever might fit with that. So I think
that is
that's
really fun and useful advice. I haven't heard it put exactly that way before. I really like making it that much fun, and it's kind of like exercising. Like you're exercising, musically exercising your synths. And but in the process your drum machines, etc. And in the process you're like coming up with material to make finished tracks or performances out of.
And you save it all, right? Yeah. So then you have basically that's why I like having different pieces of machine, because like, okay, I can walk up to my ESX1 and I can have all kinds of like techno beats and there electro beats, whatever, different things. And
nice.
I can mix and match it with different things I have on the Octatrack in terms of sequencing. Yeah, and the DX is the same thing too. So it's just fun to see. Like basically, I just try to have not get bored and have some like magic happen. Like my best songs have happened when I've combined already existing things that I've done before, and you're like, oh shit, that's the combo. That's the combo. Nice. Awesome. Then let's jam on it. And then we do a weird 15-minute jam. And like usually the last 6 minutes is usable or something. Or maybe I'll do something really cool on the SH101 in the beginning that I want to like actually bring back in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So then since I have it all separated, I could just copy and paste it and bring it right over here.
Right.
So,
I think it would be great. I think we won't go into it right now, but if I ever have you come back on, and I hope you will, to like get into an actual editing process. Because this, like your performance and what you're talking about now is like, that's the first part of it. And then the next part of it is what you're talking about now, editing, moving things around, like balancing elements, both in the arrangement and in terms of sound with your mix and things like that. I'm sure you add effects to tracks.
I do. I sometimes add, I have wave plugins.
Okay. You like waves?
I do. I like waves.
I noticed when we were testing out, that's all you've got. It's like it's either live devices or waves, and that's it.
That's all I have.
But that kind of limitation can be liberating. Not having a million choices of, I have to have all the plugins. Just have a few that are good and just keep using them. And
I really only use a few on waves, and it's really just to boost the bass a little bit.
Okay. So you're not changing your sounds much. You're kind of you're just doing like EQ compression. Like you're not doing radical sound design with what you've recorded. Okay.
No, I do EQ everything, and sometimes I do a sidechain compression moment for sure. But yeah, for the most part, I just use Ableton as my platform to record into and then to do editing. I mean, I find the layout excellent. I love Ableton. It's great.
Yeah. Well, it's mainly, I have hardware, but I'm primarily in the box in terms of producing and arranging everything. And so I'm more like when I use hardware, it's more like Abe's kind of flow where I'll have something going on in the computer and then I'll add in things one at a time when I want to use the hardware, rather than having the live performance starting point. I am thinking about trying to do that again though. And actually I want to mention this to you as well. if you know about the whole Speedy J, the live streams they were doing where they're synced between different cities. Have you seen that?
Oh, I haven't. No.
Oh, you got to check those out. They just ended their season, but there's some amazing 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour. They even ended with like a 10-hour long live jam with multiple people in Berlin and in Amsterdam. But it's actually easier to set that up than you might think. I did a video on it here. It's using a Ninjam server in combination with a couple other pieces of software. And I want to set up, I have some hardware here that's not plugged in, but I want to set up kind of a live jam setups and then synchronize with someone like you, or maybe, BPMF in Philadelphia, or Abe Duque while he's upstate at his new house, and get people together to play a little bit.
Very fun.
So, you don't have a 303, do you?
I don't have a 303. No.
I want to do a 303 orchestra. I was talking about this with Hiroko and DJ Hyperactive the last time. They were talking about this idea of a 303 orchestra. I think we should try to do that.
That's cute.
You could, a 101 would be acceptable, I think.
People have you're talking about 303 or a 303 clone, right?
Doesn't matter. If it sounds if it's acid, it's an acid orchestra, how about that? But a networked global acid orchestra with as many people as we can get synced up at the same time. How's that for a fun project? I'd love to invite you to that if we can make it happen.
It sounds sick.
Nice.
I do love some acid. It's fun.
Great.
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, basically that's kind of the way that I get excited about and create kind of a live feel in my tracks. Okay. So yeah, I would definitely come back to this and choose the parts that sound like they're meshing the best,
right.
And
obviously if you made a mistake, you can cut it out or replace it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like I already know this synth line that I was playing was somehow delayed. I'm not really sure why. Mm-hmm. I would just redo that. But I find it like I would love to watch Abe's show about how he arranges, like he records all the parts and then he arranges it. I have never been able to do that. I don't know, my brain, I don't know what it is, but maybe because I've played in all these, I don't know. I like playing the music. Sure. I don't really like arranging it in that kind of way, I get it. Yeah.
And I used to be that way too. That's because I started playing instruments, playing in bands, and then I got into electronic music, and it was like this whole transition of workflow. And in the beginning, before we had these amazing DAWs that do everything, it was all hardware synchronized and playing, and we would record to a cassette or a 4-track, or when we got to upgrade to a digital audio tape recorder. And there was very little multi-tracking. Multi-tracking was inaccessible and expensive and complicated, right? But now it's easy. Yeah. I think, but what you're doing, your workflow here, where you're kind of setting up the rough arrangement in real time, capture your performance, tracking that on separate tracks into the DAW, and then the world is your oyster. You can produce this and do anything you want to with it, or just leave it alone, or you already have your stems ready for your remixers. Like everything is just set. This is a really good workflow for hardware-based production. So all those people that are out there are like, oh, I'm DAW-less, man. I'm like, at least get something that records multi-track. Like some of these mixers out there that have built-in digital audio recorders that will record individual tracks. I know there's like Tascam and PreSonus, and even Behringer makes mixers that will record multi-track in real time. Very valuable stuff to be able to work this way. Very important. Yeah, because you want to go back in and you want to be able to have control on the kick and put a saturator on it, or, like I'll use a saturator or a compressor, and you don't want to have the same thing on the other drum parts, Right. So. Exactly. Very good. Yep. So I think we're good. It's we went over 2:00. I thought we might. We've had so much to talk about. It's been a real pleasure hanging out with you. Let's get off of the screen share and getting caught in the feedback vortex. Feedback vortex. And once again, really glad to have you. I'm going to follow up with you about these other ideas I was talking about. And I don't know, maybe one day having you back on the show to get into editing and stuff like that. That could be cool. Sure. Yeah. And good luck with your synth library. That's an amazing thing that you're doing. Yeah, follow us on Instagram, Synth Library NYC. Again, like I said, we have a big show, big fundraiser coming up on Tuesday, and we need money because we've got a lot of interested people, and we still need to buy a lot of synths. So definitely, everybody out there, check it out. And I'm fully supporting what they're doing. I've donated a synth, and I'm looking around for other doodads that I can share. I'm sure you need things like cables and all that stuff. So could you use? I have a flight case. We'll talk about this. I don't know if you need a flight case for like a 61 key keyboard to protect it. You can have it.
At this, I know. Flight case tough. We have limited storage too,
right. It's kind of big and heavy. No one wants it.
I know.
All right. Anyone out there on the stream, you live in New York, you want a free flight case for a 61 key keyboard, drop me a line. All right. So anyway, enough about me. That's it for today. Selway Techno Saturdays, 343 Labs. We'll be back on Tuesday with Tetro Talks. And thanks again, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.